Okay then guys, thanks for checking this video out. If you're watching this, I presume you're contemplating buying one of my blanks through Classic Nibs or from Roy, or you've already bought one, which is thank you indeed if you have. So basically I just wanted to give you an idea on what's actually involved with these pen blanks, because they're semi-finished. They're done to the point of where I've etched a pattern into them for you, and I've given them a basic coat of paint. Now, it might be up to you, but you might decide you want to strip that paint off and put your own colour on. That's fine. Basically, I'm just going to show you a few different techniques on how to polish these up and how to protect the paintwork while you're actually polishing it up, so you can actually get it up to a finished piece. Because if you look at this piece here, which I've done for demonstration, you will see there's a lot of etched lines all around the piece. It looks quite ugly. You could go as far as to think it was machining tools, but if you run your finger over them, you'll struggle to actually feel the groove. So if anything, they're more cosmetic blemishes more than anything else, but these are polished straight out, as you'll see. Different blanks have different processes to them. Ones with patterns what go all the way around, these ones are relatively easy to do, but if you've got one like this one here, you can see there's a lot of black area. You have to be very careful that you don't sand the paint off while you're spinning it on the lathe. There are other ways around it, one of which is to use a chopstick with a bit of sandpaper on the end of it, and you can just polish it along the tracks. Another method you can do is electropolishing. We won't go into that on this, it's a little bit involved. One of my favourite ways of doing it is to cradle a piece of sandpaper around it, like this. So we would, while it's on the lathe, we'd put the sandpaper around it and pull it tight. By pulling it tight like that, it will polish the surface without actually going into the indentations of the etched markings. But as I say, this will only work if it's surrounded by patterns all the way around it, such as the JR Gents. You should be able to get away with that on. Another thing to keep in mind is the thinner the blank, like a Sierra for example, it doesn't give you a lot of meat, so that sort of technique won't work. What you'll most probably find you're doing with the Sierras is having to touch up the paint afterwards with a fine nibbed paintbrush and some black, matte black acrylic enamel paint, available from all hobby stores, and just like I say, get a tiny paintbrush and you can just touch it up afterwards. But don't get stressed while you're trying to do these. It can be quite stressful to do, but the good news is if you do make a mess of it and you want to start from fresh, you haven't ruined the blank. The paint can be stripped off, it can be resprayed and then resanded, and you can do that and keep doing that to your heart's content. So without further ado, I'm going to chalk this up on the lathe now, and I'll go over a couple of ways on how we can make this shiny and pretty without all of these ugly marks. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is concentrate on the ends up to the pattern. So we're only really talking the first 10-12 millimeters of the actual blank on each end. And to do that, we're going to use a bit of a grit of around 600, somewhere around there, 600, 800 would be fine. And we're just going to give it a gentle squeeze and polish up these edges, because we can't really go wrong with that bit. It's only when we get into the paint part we have to start being a little bit more careful in what we're doing. So without further ado, let's sort these ends out. Okay, now as you'll see here, I've actually cut these with scissors. I like a nice sharp clean edge, it just makes it easier to work rather than trying to tear sandpaper. So it's worth a snip. Okay. You can see there's a tiny little bit of line around here left, so we're going to give a little bit more. As you can see, it's nearly done. that's looking good. Okay, so now it leaves us with the actual main body of it, and like I said, there's a couple of ways you can do this. And you'll be able to tell by the depth of your etch. Ideally, before doing this next technique I'm about to show you, you want about 0.5mm of depth. Like I say, with the smaller pen blanks like the Sierras, I very much doubt you'll get that, but you might be able to get away with it. Worst case scenario is you're going to have to repaint it. Just a can of acrylic spray paint, matte black, will do fine, or like I say, you can go at it with a fine nib paintbrush with some black acrylic enamel paint. But all we're going to do for this one is, again, 600 grit sandpaper, but we're actually going to cradle the whole piece in the sandpaper. So one sec while I sort this out. So there we go, one strip of sandpaper cut to size. Don't use your wife's scissors, she'll get upset. So all I'm going to do is apply pressure to the top and pull at the bottom so it's tight on the piece. That way it's not sagging and it's not loose and it can't rub on, in theory, anything which is below surface level. So let's just try this and see how it comes up. Did I get away with it? Yep, that's working. It's not taking the paint off anywhere, so we look good to go on that. Okay, lots of dust everywhere. Okay. Still a couple more marks there. So okay, good. So the piece is all now nicely sanded. It's actually quite misty in colour, partly because it'll be covered in a fine layer of dust, and also it's just because I've used a 600 grit and an 800 grit sandpaper on it. So what I'm going to do now is use a micro mesh just to polish it up a bit. Okay, so here we are with 1500 grit. Okay, and let's not forget, we don't have to have it spinning on the lathe. The structural bridge part here, which we leave solid to keep the actual blank solid, because if we was to take that out it would warp in the etching process with the thin blanks. On the full-size gents we can get away with it and etch the pattern all the way around, but you know, just a bit of elbow grease on that stripe, that way we're not damaging the paintwork. And these are all new techniques for new blanks, and sometimes just a bit of elbow grease is a little bit better than mounting it up on the lathe and spinning it. There we go, nice shine. Apart from it's filthy, as you can see. And all we're going to do, is once we're happy with that, is take it off and give it a wash in the sink with a toothbrush, and just give it a scrub down with some soapy water gently, and that'll just clean off all of this dust and any other muck what we've put on it from polishing it up. Okay then, so it's had a scrub down with a toothbrush and a bit of soap, just to get the bubbles frothing all over it and giving it a nice scrub in circular motions just to clean off all of the debris from the sanding, and this is what you get. So you can see we've used no chemicals for polishing. Don't use any strong cleaners or anything like that. You've got to bear in mind anything you put on is going to attack the paintwork, which is obviously what fundamentally you're trying to avoid at the end. But as you can see, this has got a beautiful shine, and it's took all of those marks out, all of those burn lines you saw all the way around the edges and up the back. Because don't get me wrong, when you start them they look pretty ugly, and you've then got to put your touch into it for your best finishing technique to make these shine, but preserving the paintwork at the same time. There's a bit of a knack to it, and it'll take you a little bit of experimentation, but the results you'll get on the finished product just turns heads and catches people's eye, left, right and centre. So there you go, thanks for looking, and like I say, you can buy these from Classic Nibs, and I'm sure Roy will be able to hook you up with anything you need, and by all means you'll feel free to contact me directly if you'd like any help with finishing them off or anything like that. You can contact me through the International Association of Pen Turners. I'm registered on there as Brad G. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.